transferring over. Hopefully things are quiet on the chat. It was kind of chaos last time. All right. Here's the agenda. I do expect today to be short, but I guess you never know. On testing releases, there is some activity on the spec repo. There are some minor features that are being worked on that we expect to come out in something of like a minor hard fork early mid next year. The actual discussion of what's going to go in there, I'd say let's wait until January. We can spend some time making it kind of clear what the intentions are, and we can debate and go back and forth a little bit. I think the low-hanging fruit here are a little bit of accounting reform on how attestations and things are stored in state. Adding a sync committee or light client sync committee, which reuses some of the generally similar committee functionality, both on the networking level and in the spec, to add a light client first support and some other small stuff. But again, I think our time would be better spent formalizing some of that stuff, writing it down, getting people up to speed, and then we can discuss it in January. Additionally, there's ongoing work in the spec on...
I should interrupt and just those specific issues. Like there are GitHub issues and pull requests and the Eth2 specs that you can look at already. So on the accounting reform stuff, if you just go into the polls section of Eth2 specs, the most recent two from myself, I forget the numbers, but one says like accounting reform and the other says quotient reform or something like that.
Right.
Highly recommend for client developers to look at them and at least familiarize yourself with the proposals and comment if you have things to say.
Right, and some of that in there moves some of the state accounting to the way it's generally optimized on epoch transitions anyway. So I think this would be a net benefit. Helps for things like empty epoch transitions and stuff, which are currently probably a DOS vector. Cool. So ongoing work there. There's also to make this testing a little bit more sustainable, I want to use a little bit different model, and I expect that to come out early next year. Didn't really want to pull the rug on you on testing infrastructure right near launch, but that's where we're at. Let's see. Anything else on testing and releases? Mehdi, do you got anything for us?
Not much. We had crashes lately, which is good, I guess. We had to fix our fuzzers after a few client updates messed them up. Still have one small issue with HonkFuzz, the mutation-based fuzzing engine, not the structural one. It's spitting out way too many false positives to be useful. So we need to basically implement some timeouts to give it enough time to initialize all the clients. But yeah, it's been good. We've been working with Parry on deploying the fuzzers to the AWS infrastructure. He's got some great Ansible and Terraform scripts. But yeah, pretty quiet, I'd say. No crashes to report, which is good.
Good, thanks. Okay, anything else here?
So about the test vectors, I have a proposal about adding the BLS serialization test posting here. Think I got some feedback from the client teams and the BLS, the library implementers. So I think it will continue to implement it in our test vector, but the interface might change if I found something new. But basically, is the test will focus on the 3 significant bytes and the verifications.
Great. And this is after you found a couple of issues in PyECC around some of the serialization, right, shall we?
Yes, thanks to Kron and our Eth2 bounty hunter and help the PyCC a lot.
Great. Okay. Let's move on to client updates. We can start with Teku.
Hey everyone, from the Teku side, we've been focusing on optimizing epoch processing. Creating the first block of the epoch is still slower than others, so there's potential for further improvement, but it's significantly better than it was, and we're not seeing blocks get orphaned on Paramount anymore. Attestations for the first slot is also now much more accurate because block import times are faster. We've modified Eth1 Genesis block search to be more tolerant of missing historical blocks. We've reduced beacon state backing tree heap consumption, and we've significantly sped up SSC serialized and deserialized, and we fixed a bug which caused Teku to produce invalid attestation aggregates. That's about it.
Nice. And Prism?
Hey guys, Terrence here. So we've added database backups at runtime for both and validator client. We're also supporting reading graffiti from file, and this is for the validator side. This was a highly requested by user. We have peer scoring enabled by default. We updated to Golang 1.15.6, and with disk I/O for validator client, and this results in safer attester slashing protection, which is great. Last but not least, we've added Eth1 fallback option for the Eth1 node, and this was also highly requested by our user. And that's it. Thank you.
I'm curious, on the fallback option, is that if the API, the connection fails, or does it try to detect if maybe the main option is following the head?
We're just doing the API protection fail.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I wonder. Maybe if you look at peer count or some other stuff that might signal that it's bad. I was just setting that up the other day and didn't know exactly what was going to happen. But thank you. Lighthouse.
Well, first of all, apologies for missing the last call 2 weeks ago. We've been working on enhancing our slasher, so we fixed a misproposed slashing bug, and we added the option for users to broadcast their slashings. We fixed a couple of IO failures that were causing potential database corruptions. I think like a lot of people, there's been some Eth1 client issues, so Geth works seemingly and seems to work really well, but everything else seems to struggle. So we also added an Eth1 fallback node a little while ago, and we also now have a manual flag for users to purge their Eth1 cache for dodgy clients. We simplified the beacon lock files. We're now using OS locks. We almost completed the standard HTTP API. The server sent events are implemented now. Went and corrected some light attestations. We've been testing and analyzing Gossip Sub data metrics and scoring. So we found a little discrepancy in the expected message propagation, which will be corrected very soon in a future PR. And yeah, we're currently working on reducing our block proposal time, cutting it down from 500 millis to about 100 millis. Paul and Benedict are working on a beacon node fallback, so kind of similar to the Eth1 fallback, giving users the ability to specify multiple beacon nodes. And we started experimenting with a new scoring parameter to essentially help detect censoring nodes. And that's about it.
Great.
Hi. So yesterday we released our version 1.0.4. We didn't announce it, but we will be announcing it soon, though some users found it still. So the biggest change that we had were properly handling the termination signals. For example, making sure that the slashing protection database is correctly flushed on disk and closed. We added also new performance scoring so that you can check if your system can keep up with the small requirement of the Eth2 chain. And also importantly, we fixed a bug where we didn't fully some aggregation we received, and we forwarded them to the network, and we ended up getting bad score. And we also fixed issue in Gossip Sub, which led to a slightly worse attestation effectiveness. So right now we are focusing on a couple of performance bottleneck. One is disk I/O. So when we have some I/O when we do attestation or block proposal that we would like to reduce, and accelerating state transition via having something called state diff instead of storing the whole state. And lastly, multi-threading that we plan to have. We have the primitives done, and we plan to refactor or verify benefits from multi-threading at 2 different levels, and for maybe 3 weeks from now.
Great. And Cayman.
Hello, everyone. So, past few weeks, turns out we hadn't implemented the API, the standard API, but we implemented those two endpoints. We finally got on implementing and integrating the BLS batch verification, which really helped us. And we've just been going through profiling, running Beacon Node, and finding low-hanging fruits. Some things as simple as, like in libp2p, getting peers in JS libp2p is kind of it takes a while. So just doing our part.
Hey, did I lose Cayman or am I disconnected?
We've also
You're not the only one.
I lost you for about like 20 seconds or maybe 12 seconds.
Oh, your internet connection is unstable.
It's yours.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the last thing you heard? BLS batch verification? Profiling?
Hard to get peers.
Right. So we're just doing try to get some final things together that are really stopping us from having a responsive Beacon node all the time. And we've decided to cut releases every 2 weeks. So we're just going to do like that kind of release schedule. So that's it from us.
Can people try Lodestar on Pyrmont?
Yes, so it works. I will say currently, so you could pull it down from either master, build it, or from npm. But one thing, it will like kind of pause every few minutes. But it will stay on the head, but it will not be responsive at all times. So we're working through those last things.
Great. I lost my agenda page, but I'm pretty sure next up is research updates. Anybody want to
go? So on the sharding front, not sure if I mentioned this in the previous call, but the data availability sampling sharding is now a APR. It's also one of the very more recent ones in the PR list. So that includes the beacon chain transitions, and there's also a separate document that the PR links to that has been around for a while that basically talks about like how the data availability sampling works. And in the time, Dankred has been doing some excellent work on optimizing proof generation, making it look like generating the inclusion proofs or the correctness proofs for branches of a block is going to be much more practical, possibly somewhere around 8 times faster or more than we had thought before, which is potentially good news because it reduces the headaches that we might expect from needing from block proposing. Otherwise, block proposing just be a significantly simpler process.
Can you help us understand the complexity of implementing Kate commitments in terms of like what type, like how much is it built off of existing BLS libraries and things versus
Sure, really good question.
implementation?
I think one really important thing is that you need to have a library that exposes BLS operations. So multiplication and addition being the most important ones. And ideally, you want this fast linear combinations, aka multi-exponentiation, which basically just takes a whole bunch of points and a whole bunch of coefficients, multiplies each point by the coefficient, sums them all up, and gives you the output. Basically, there's kind of optimized ways of doing that are potentially up to something like 10 times faster than for large inputs than doing it the kind of naive way. So if you have libraries that do those things, I mean, if you don't have the fast linear combinations, then you could also just code it yourself. So if you do have things, it's actually not that hard. So making a Kate commitment for a piece of data just literally means you have a kind of pre-existing set of points, which would basically be the trust, basically an FFT of the trusted setup, pre-compute fairly easily. And you just take the first object, you just basically do a fast linear combination of the setup to get block. So you do the first point multiplied by the first piece of data plus the second point multiplied by the second piece of data, and so forth. So commit data is easy. Verifying a proof is an inclusion proof is also easy, and basically it's just a single pairing check. And now generating all inclusion proofs is the thing that Dankred has been working a lot on optimizing, but the good news is that it's still something like 40 line or to 50 lines of Python code or so. And so you can probably just take the Python code and translate it. So my opinion is that it should not be all that difficult, actually.
And is this a known enough quantity that it can be worked on today?
I think so.
Just to be clear.
Once again, if we have the BLS library support, right? I mean, I think for Blast, I think you have to wait for them to expose those.
I can give you some comments about the library support, but just to make sure, we don't need FFT because it's simple enough that we can just use multi-scalar multiplication, right?
Correct. So the FFT is needed in a couple of places. So one place is that to generate all inclusion proofs for a block, so to generate n inclusion proofs in n log n time instead of in n squared time, you need the fancy algorithm, which Dankred kind of created by adapting this earlier thing from Dimitri and one other person, and that uses FFTs internally. And the second thing is that the Kate trusted setup that you normally see comes in the form of a sequence of powers. But in order to just commit to a block, you want one that comes in the form of being a sequence of evaluations, and converting from one to the other also requires an FFT.
Okay. So in terms of the state of the BLS libraries that we can use, remember that with my very first talk with Supranational back in April, that was one of the things they wanted to look at, the multiscalar mule, but I don't think it's ready yet. However, Consensus has a library called GOF and GNARC for snarks and 12.381. And they have the multiscalar multiplication that is also multi-threaded and that they optimized heavily. And the ZXZ project has also a library in Rust. Recently, they renamed to ArcWorks. And they also have a heavily optimized BLS 12.3081, including FFT and multiscalar multi. And I think it can also even work on GPU. But
Oh, excellent! So I know looking at the libraries that are being used for snarks definitely seems like a potentially fruitful route to take. But there, one thing I want to stress is that there definitely is value from working on the Cat-A pieces sooner. The reason basically is that we really want to just get the statistics on how what is the runtime of one of these things in practice. And basically just like if we have that statistic, I think it significantly de-risks the whole thing.
Also, I'm very happy to like create a little intro to the FFT on group stuff, like the method to create all the proofs. Like, so if as soon as anyone is kind of saying they want to start working on this, I would create something to like get them on board.
Yeah, I think it maybe in January it might be a good time to do some various like education and knowledge transfer, so we can all kind of get up to speed on this and some other stuff that we're looking to do next year. All right, I mean to totally derail you there.
I think that's the main new stuff happening on the research front. No, can't think of anything else though.
Okay. Anyone else?
I mean, related to the data availability sampling, I guess one aspect is the and possibly, slightly modified DHTs with new properties like low latency. And I guess one of the things we're looking to do is hire a networking expert who could maybe help us at the Ethereum Foundation investigate these issues. So if you know anyone, please pass them on.
All right. Any other updates here? All right, great. I might have had my mute backwards there. Any other updates? All right. Great. We had a networking call 1 week ago. There's a to-do list that I need to get to. Thank you for taking notes, Ben. Is there any other networking components people want to discuss today? Okay. And general spec discussion. Like I said, there is plenty of movement on the spec. I think it makes sense to have at least one person on your team keeping up on the various developments and engaging, and Mary will have plenty of good stuff to talk about on maybe like a first hard fork. And like I said, I think it'd be a good time to maybe get on some calls and make sure we write down a lot of stuff to just do some knowledge transfer and get people up to speed, because there's plenty of engineering R&D tasks to begin to tackle here. Other than that, anything people want to discuss today?
Do we want to talk about fork choice things at all, or is that just the kind of keep quietly working and figure it out sort of thing?
I'd say let's pick that up in the new year.
Yep, makes sense. Now, I mean, for anyone listening, the quick update is basically that there's some multiple small tweaks to the fork choice rule that we have been mulling over in order to address all of the issues that some academic people have found with the fork choice rule, basically some theoretical issues with liveness. So, yeah, we will and the ideas on exactly what to do have been around for a couple of months now, but just kind of pushing them forward to something close to a ready to go state.
And kind of underneath that is more of a general just contemplation of liveness in general, because as you're aware, the fork choice, is LMD Ghost, but then has a number of these like tweaks and fixes to make it more live under the attacks found, which is a game of whack-a-mole, which is maybe not the run. Okay. Anything else at all that people want to discuss today before we take a off, at least for this call?
Can we talk about ProgPow for 40 minutes?
Yeah, you can start us off, Vitalik. Can you start us off with a 10-minute diatribe? Yeah, okay, fair. Thank you. Excellent work, as always. Happy to see mainnet very stable. And have a great holidays. Talk to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.